Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
Another Monday.
Marcus is drudging through Raw, and it's sapping the soul from his body. I can feel it transcontinentally, if you will. And like I know he's suffering. Like I know it. I'm not watching Raw, but I know it. And as a friend, I feel like I should help him. So I'm gonna make it worse. And I'm gonna make him watch the first two episodes of NWA TNA weekly pay-per-views for next week. We're doing it. Bring it back, making an impact. Coming back next week. If you remember 5 or 6 years ago, Zach and I got through about 30 or so of the shows. Not this time. We're going all the way through. I'm gonna make Marcus either hate pro wrestling or appreciate what he's getting. There will be no in between. Now, I've already suffered through the early era of Impact. I don't remember all of it. I don't know if it's because it was bad and I forgot about it, or if it was so bad it traumatized me and I forced myself to forget it. But we'll find out. We will find out. Marcus, I'm going to get my interview hat on. I feel like I need to go like a 1930s a newspaper boy. Extra, sir. So I got to ask, are you excited or terrified about getting into early Deep South NWA TNA next week?
Can't really say excited. Mildly intrigued. Can't say I dread it because I actively continue watching through the Hogan Bischoff years Impact. Then the aftermath of that, which was its own thing. So, you know, if it's vibes of what they do when they do those specialty shows where they, what's the name of those shows when they dress up and pretend to be other people?
Oh yeah, the Impact Wrestling. What was it? Province Territorial Championship Wrestling or something like that. IWP, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, because like they have like the four horsewomen, but they're not known as the four horsewomen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Vibes like that I can dig it. And of course, just during the era where you find out just how many people came through the company, even if it won't ever be acknowledged.
Well, that's more like '04. So '02. Let me give you the truncated first few months. There are two dudes in Giants spandex that they refer to as dicks. Or Johnsons, but they're walking dicks. That's the whole. They're dicks and condoms. That's the whole joke. There are a trio of Elvises, one of which is Jimmy Wang Yang. So like that's cool. We have incest between three cousins. Bisexual incest between three cousins, apparently. Ron Killings is a villain because he's a black man in the South. Literally the extent of his early character. Their three biggest names were Scott Hall, Jeff Jarrett, and Ken Shamrock. Dan Severn wouldn't even do the show to drop the belt because he was at the time NWA World Champion. And their two big young up-and-comers, Chris Harris and James Storm, they threw together as a tag team because they had nothing else for them. So that's basically the first 3 months of action. That's what you can expect. Plus, like, a lot of, like, really awkward final appearances, like Kurt Hennig shows up. Ugh. Dusty and Vader, they come around in '03. So does Legion of Doom, so that's kind of cool. But, we got to get there. And even then, I'm not telling you it's good. I'm just telling you it happens. So that's coming up. So tune in next week as Marcus begins his Jacob Ladders-like descent into madness. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, for fuck's sake, not Jacob Ladder.
Have you ever seen that? Oh, you probably saw the remake, didn't you?
The one with Michael Ealy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fairly played psychological thriller.
Did you ever see the original with I can't remember his name. Macaulay Culkin was in it though, briefly.
I don't think I did. I want to say I ended up watching Jacob's Ladder because of a conversation we had. I think about it once, but yeah, I don't think I saw the original.
Robbins. Something Robbins. Can't remember his first name. So, speaking of things I can't remember, let's talk about Elimination Chamber because I can't remember why anyone liked this show. Like ever, like as a format, as an idea, as a concept, because like man, these chamber matches are ass. There's no impact anymore. And there's no real urgency. Like I think the biggest spot in the women's match included I think Raquel who was it? Either Natalia or Nikki, or maybe it was even Carmella. Or not Carmella, Liv Morgan. Raquel drove somebody or got driven into a pod, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, what a spot! And I'm sitting there going, that was fucking stupid. Hey, I remember Booker T, or no, Rob Van Dam, nearly killing Triple H in the first chamber. Now, granted, I don't want to even die or even close to dying. I'm just saying, like, if you're not going to jump off a pod, what are we doing? I think someone did a sunset foot powerbomb off a pod. But, like, it's so overplayed, it doesn't even register anymore.
Yeah, and then they do. I mean, it's already bad when they do this outside the ring, but oh my God, everybody's in this little bunch, and oh my God, who's that up top? Are they ready? Are they ready? Okay, they're getting ready. Everybody just stay there and look stunned.
Getting ready to stop. Getting ready to stop. Getting ready to stop. Go.
By God, that man's insane. No, that's not a JR moment.
By God, we've seen this spot 6 times today.
I will, however, say that in an era where everything's so repetitively stifling, Montez Ford did turn it up a notch with just enthusiasm.
Yeah, his energy was pretty high. I will say that the biggest thing about his moment, though, however, was I don't remember who did what, but he got pinned and eliminated, and then he started doing the shaky leg. And like at first, I'm telling myself this is taking too long. Someone's running in, but also I was just like, but he's doing like really good. Is he really hurt? I hope he's not really hurt.
So he sold the hell out of it. I thought he was like really like he sold the hell out of that.
So then of course Logan Paul showed up and beat up Seth Rollins. And I'm sitting here going, do I want to root for the embezzler, Logan Paul, or do I want to, support the Nazi fucker? Or do I go with the rare, I hope the rig falls on both of you mentality? Because, that's kind of what I'm angling for at this point. The men's was a little better, but it was for the U.S. title and like Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano. I know you're a Montez Ford guy, but like none of these guys, I'm like sitting there going, these aren't like. These are the guys like if like we're building a show, I would consider putting on in like the opener. Like have like Gargano and Ford for the cruiserweight title, maybe have like Bronson versus Priest as the 7-minute cool down match after the cruiserweight title. Like I'm certainly not putting them in the main events. Like I'm sitting there going, where's the headliners? Like where's Drew McIntyre? Right? Where's Cody Rhodes? Where are the actual fucking names in this promotion? Instead, I got to sit through Johnny Gargano. Ugh. He has a weird face, and I don't mean his logo.
Shaq's favorite cosplayer.
That's all he is, man. That's all he is. Oh, I can't wait for him to do his Marvel inspired cosplay because he's so cool and original and so different. Oh my god. And then his wife is the dangerous pixie or the perverted pixie or the pixie lacious. I don't know the fuck that gimmick is supposed to be. Like you can't just show up with a gimmick and then have zero airtime to explain what you are because that's the truest way of becoming nothing more than jobber fodder. I swear to God, that couple annoys me. Speaking of annoying, I was thinking that Bobby Lashley defeating Brock Lesnar by DQ was going to set up a WrestleMania match. But, apparently that may not be the case. So, like, if that isn't the case, if this is how this feud ends with a dick kick, I'm going to be so mad. Edge and Beth Phoenix defeated Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. This was a dumb match. Did. I enjoyed 0 minutes of that match. I know like Edge and Beth are married and they get to work, but every time I see them, I'm just thinking, is he cheating on her like his first wife? Like,
Uh,
I'm sorry. I know like it's not a cool thing,
I
but
knew it because Beth looked like she bust in and kicked both their asses. Like literally, like she is in better shape than most people that are getting started. Like it's nuts.
yeah, she's phenomenal shape. She's a longtime bodybuilder. I still have pictures in like an old PWI of like when she broke into the business in like '04, '05, and she had like a more like softer appearance. And
Yeah,
like I look at the two now, I'm like, no.
a more demure look, and he looks like I know exactly what he looks like, but she does not look like the person you want to go over there and tell that. I think it's time you cut your grass. Like no, that's,
That's one of those you walk over and goes, your grass is getting high. Can I cut it for you? So like I don't know. I've never been a big Edge guy because he always strikes me as a pretty scummy dude.
yeah, I've always been a Christian dude myself.
Yeah, yeah, and he came back and beat up Jungle Boy, so I know you're having conflicting emotions this week. So I don't know. Like I don't give a shit. Like Finn Balor, we are 7 years removed from when he was last relevant. Because I know like this Judgment Day thing is supposed to be a big deal, but like, do you feel like it's a big deal? They haven't done anything.
I mean,
They
I'm glad about it because it's done wonders for Ripley.
sure with Dominic, I can see that, and it's
Yeah,
risen Dominic's profile, so he can now star in Crybaby 2.
yeah, he's looking more and more like a one of those like he looks like a goth stud.
A little bit. I
It's not
like the little tear on his eye because you can tell it's
yeah.
probably like eyeliner.
The hair's getting long. It's getting to the point where he's going to look a little bit more menacing than she is, and it's because she even with everything that because how she started out, particularly when we first saw in that Mae Young Classic, to what she looks like now is like the flipper when we did the like Charlotte then and Charlotte now, except this is like she joined the League of Assassins or something. Um, but yeah, that crybaby reference is apropos. Like somebody's gonna be like, "Please, Mr. Jailer." Mysterio's just gonna come out like, "No, keep his ass in there." Because the storyline, the best part of the storyline for me, besides his evolving look and the constant threats he makes to people, vaguely referencing what he may have not done to people in jail, is he keeps popping up on his dad to ruin all his holidays, and, and it's hilarious.
Do you think we're gonna get an actual match between them at WrestleMania? Because I feel like with knowing what we know about the WWE, it's not gonna happen.
I don't know. Either that or they should go that old school SmackDown Eddie route where they had the low riders uh in the parking lot for a street fight.
Oh yeah, because they did that with Cena, and they did it one time before. I think maybe with Rhino or Benoit.
Because I'm like at this point, because it reminds me like the reason why, besides the fact that they had to follow the first Taker and Shawn match out of that that Hunter and Randy Orton match at Mania is because like by the time it got to that point, he should have been trying to literally kill him in a last man standing, but it got to the point where it's like, you get to the match, it's gonna be a regular match, and if you get disqualified, you lose the strap. I'm like, he literally punted his whole family, handcuffed him to the ropes, loosely kissed his wife. It's like it just like you went all that, and all he did was punt him, and that wasn't even that huge of a deal. So they need to. It needs to get to the point where he damn near is gonna like kill this kid, and the wife has to pull him off.
Okay, so this is the worst idea ever, but also I need to see it. I want to see Ray take Dominic's eye. Could you imagine like another eye for an eye match? Oh, that would be so terrible.
Oh no, I'm really bad because now I'm thinking about some Sons of Anarchy storyline. It gets to the point where he's been doing these home pop ups so much. Ray's waiting on his ass. So he's like he sends the rest of the family off to like the in laws, and he's just waiting for like Dominic's ass one time, and they break out and go to fighting, and it gets to the point where it's so crazy, Rhea calls the cops. They both end up going to jail, and now we put this Dominic's gangster to the test. Where Dominic comes with all these weirdo looking cats, and on one side, and behind Mysterio is a bunch of overly buff dudes for whatever reason that are just so huge fans of him. Like they all have makeshift Mysterio masks, and they down to fight.
I'd be fine with that. That could be interesting. Although, just don't do like a cinematic thing.
Or you could just do the thing where, of course, Rey Mysterio's never been to jail, so now we tested Mysterio, Dominic's gangster, and every week he's trying to have his father got in jail, and Mysterio's just barely escaping, and now he has to go around and make deals for protection because his son really is that guy in county.
That is what we need to see come the next video game. The next installment of WWE 2K, whatever, like that instead of like getting John Cena mode, I want to have Dominic prison mode.
Well, you have to beat the levels to unlock a more more hardened aesthetic.
Exactly. And you can improve your entourage
Uh,
through pudding cups. The
oh,
more
we get.
pudding cups you have, the more you can purchase.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
So apparently Becky's doing a tag team title match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, she's gonna. Apparently, the goal now is to spite Bailey by taking the straps off
Damage control.
Damage Control and go into WrestleMania's tag champs with Lita.
I think, I've not been very over on Lita coming back to wrestling because her neck and back are fucked. And every time she does a moonsault, she doesn't rotate enough, and it always feels like she's going to land on her chest, which is a great way to snap your spine. But I'm always in favor of veterans coming back to do tag title nonsense because they can be easily protected at that point. So, like, I'm all right with this because if they're doing this, are they doing this on a Raw or SmackDown before WrestleMania?
Yeah, I think they talking about doing it on a Raw or something to that effect.
Because I would not have an issue with because like this would we talk about all the time like they need to actually like put some effort into the tag titles. Doing Becky and Lita versus Ronda and Baszler, that's a pretty fucking big matchup for a belt. So like I'd be all about that. The only thing that would make it better is if Baszler wasn't a part of it. I know like she's supposed to be getting a rub, but like Shayna Baszler is like older than Ronda Rousey. I think she's in her 40s now, and I feel like at this point you either need to accept that she's not the star you were hoping she'd be, and just go find somebody who can match Rousey's name value. And I don't feel like Baszler's on the same level as Lynch or Lita or Ronda. So
It's interesting because I thought she was great when she first came off of NXT, and she was like they kept her aggressive. But now she's doing this in between thing where she's aggressive, but not what she was, and she almost kind of has to play second to Ronda because Ronda's snapping now, or whatever.
so the
So
match is taking place next week,
yeah,
confirmed. So it looks like we're gonna have new tag team champions. Because
which
honestly,
not
why are you bringing Lita out of the? I was gonna say out of the closet. Why are you shaking Lita out? You know, after hanging her up on the clothesline just to have her lose. Like no, on a Raw no less.
yeah,
At like 47 with a bad neck and back. Like what are we doing here?
yeah. She don't even do her usual or like she used to come out and kind of do the Hardy thing because I just think it's just too much. Also, that's not the flex it used to be. So yeah.
Yeah, ever since Jeff ruined it. Jeff, your brother's getting beaten up. Can you not? So yeah, Elimination Chamber was ass. Reigns and Zayn was a match. I definitely wouldn't say that it was a good match.
Shout out to your tweet. I like watching storylines die in real time.
Like you had, and I want to be very clear. I did think that Zayn winning made more sense for the storyline. I did think going into WrestleMania with him versus Reigns, or even Zayn versus Cody would have made more sense. They could have done this a cajillion different ways. You could have done two falls match where each belt was on the line separately, and Roman could have like whooped Zayn's ass for like 30 minutes, and I mean persistently, and not even try to pin him, and then throws him on the ground, hits him with a spear, hits him with another spear, hits him with a Dominator because nobody's using it anymore, and I don't know why Bobby Lashley doesn't use it. And I wanted to see Bobby Lashley hit Brock Lesnar with a Dominator, and you didn't do it, so I'm kind of pissed about that. But you beat up Zayn for 30 minutes, and Roman just puts his foot on top of him, gets the 1, 2, 3. He keeps the ugly blue belt. I don't even know what belt that is anymore. I think that's the Universal.
Uh,
And then Reigns can yell at Jay or yell at Paul or yell at Kevin Owens or yell at Zayn's wife, and then Zayn can just reach up, grab Roman by the pants, pull him down, hook the legs for a schoolboy, or and 1, 2, 3, and Reigns can go into WrestleMania and face Cody in the match that I don't know why anyone would ever want to see that match because it's gonna be boring as shit. And Zayn can actually have a fun storyline heading into WrestleMania. I don't know. I'm weird like that. I think you book to match the temperature of the audience. You don't expect the audience to temper itself to
yeah,
the story.
it's one of them things too, and then we've seen like what deserving winners just fall victim to a larger narrative.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that was Zayn's WrestleMania, that show in that city with that momentum coming off of that storyline. But ultimately, again, it's a numbers thing with that strap. And if they're gonna have him drop it in their mind, they want it to be at Mania. So really, the minute Cody won, Zayn lost.
Yep.
So good match, a lot of emotion. They were smart, of course, like you said, to go back to his old theme, which is apropos now because he's a face again. And Reigns did his usual stuff, killing it on the in between the move stuff with egging on the audience and then going back and forth with his wife and all that stuff was great. Um, and now it looks like obviously you got the stuff continuing with Jay, and apparently they go milk the storyline up against Zayn trying to win over Kevin to help him take down the bloodline. So they trying to milk this for all they can, and with the Cody thing, because I know some people saying it's playing second fiddle, which in some ways it is, because now it's this thing where like the meat and potatoes of him and Reigns is whatever beef's going on between him and Heyman.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that occurred to me during the match. Zayn isn't the worker he used to be. He's still good. You know, once you know how to work, it becomes very hard to be a bad worker. Like,
Yeah,
look at Jeff Jarrett. He's 55. He
yeah.
can still work. The problem is Zayn spent so much of his like, cause Zayn is quietly ultra athletic, or at least he was in his heyday. He th- he used to come out to Bouncing Souls Ole, and it was such an apropos song, not just because of his gimmick of the Ole kick and whatnot, but because the dude bounced when he walked. Like the dude had knees of like just of it's springs. There we go. I was gonna say slinkies. That's not the right word. But you can tell he no longer has that bounce anymore. When he was going up for that middle rope DDT through the turnbuckle, he couldn't get through. Like even if it wasn't a planned spot where he was going to get punched, he wasn't going to complete it. Like he got stuck, and you could see it on his. He got cut on the nails or screws that screw it in.
Oh,
Like he
that's
got.
what that line. Oh, that's what that
Mhm.
was on his stomach. Okay. Yeah, you saying
So
this ain't the Zayn that got to have the debut match with Shinsuke all them years ago.
no, it's not. But also kind of keep in mind something. You know, he debuted in the WWE 10 years ago. He's been here for a long time.
Yeah, he technically overstayed in NXT too.
He did. He very much did. So it's one of those things where Zayn is somebody who's at the tail end of his prime, if he's even still in his prime. And like this was the perfect opportunity to get him into WrestleMania because he'll, one, never be hotter, two, never have a better opportunity, and three, never have the better circumstances to get there. So you know, you're
Yeah,
watching Zayn age out of the main event scene in real time. And like
yeah,
and the thing is, I don't know if he would ever work as well with Reigns in another audience as he did in Montreal, because that crowd was there for one match and they proved it. I don't know if you can put Zayn in San Antonio or Seattle or Vancouver or London and have that same connection. It's not like Daniel Bryan, where he was over regardless of where he went. For
yeah.
Zayn, that was a very specific location. Now, maybe that's not true. Maybe he could get that same kind of love in Hollywood, LA, because that's where WrestleMania is going to be. But I don't know if that's what if that's what we're going to get. By the by, before we move on to Battle in the Valley, those WrestleMania commercials are so bad.
I finally saw the one with Rollins and Becky. And what did you say? Like, no, she's not putting on a thing. That's how she sounds.
That's just her voice. That is her voice. She sounds like
God,
she's
that was so
perpetually eating
cringe.
gravel.
It was so cringe.
And like they're really hammering home, like I'm the man, she's the man.
And he was
Like,
doing
ugh,
the thing between his character and the Joker, which okay, that was fine. But the minute I'm like, what is she doing? What is she doing?
it's so bad. What was the other one? Because we had a second one.
Um,
It was the Miz, I think.
well, I'm glad I missed it. Like, the only thing stomachable about him at this point is Maurice, and I can't even enjoy that because I don't like the like oogle or boogle married women.
I respect that.
Yeah, but it's like yeah, I'm having more fun with them comparing what they're trying to do to the old WrestleMania 21 things that they did.
Oh, those were great.
Yeah, yeah,
Those were so good.
yeah.
I loved doing the. I loved watching the. Like everyone doing the. Are you talking to me? And I had Paul Lennon and Gene Snitsky and like something like his was great because it was like accidental, and like some of the props on the back wall fell while he was, and he stops and he looks behind him, and he turns around and he goes, "That wasn't my fault," and I'm like, "That was perfect." So Russell Votes claims that these are the movie trailers we're getting. We're gonna get Miz and Maurice and Top Gun Rhea and the Judgment Day in Stranger Things. The Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre in 40-Year-Old Virgin. Becky and Seth in Batman and Joker, and the Bloodline in Goodfellas.
There's a there's a perfect opportunity to do Adam's Family with Rhea and Dominic. Obviously, with Dominic playing Morticia.
Well, I feel like Rhea's got to be Morticia, but Dom can be he can be Pugsley. Ah,
I
get
was
a
just
little
I was
creepy.
just talking I was just specifically talking about them doing one with Dom and Rhea. Because I could that small of a Morticia, and of course Ray would keep the mask on.
That'd be funny.
Uh,
I could see that. All right, Battle in the Valley. It was on after Elimination Chamber, basically, and it was fine. Coughlin defeated J.R. Kratos. David Finley defeated Bobby Fish. Thank goodness. Kushida Volador Jr., excuse me. Kevin Knight and the DKC defeated Mascara, Dorada, Josh Alexander, Adrian Quest, Rocky Romero, pinfall. And they're teasing Alexander versus Kushida for the Impact title. So, I'm excited about that. That'd be dope.
hey, my boy Kushida's back in rare form.
Right? He's actually being used correctly. Kenta defeated Fred Rosser by pinfall to win the Strong Openweight Championship. That match I missed because I ran to the store. So I'm not sure if it was any good or not. The Machine Guns defeated the West Coast Wrecking Crew, which is Jor-El Nelson and Royce Isaacs, formerly of, what was that, Risky Business in the NWA.
Oh, okay.
Royce Isaacs was the tag team partner of Thom Latimer. And it was a solid match. Only went 9 minutes, though. Eddie Kingston defeated Jay White by pinfall. Jay White lost, I forgot to who, in Japan in a loser leaves Japan match. I think it was Hikuleo. And then this was a loser leaves New Japan match. So Jay White is no longer in New Japan. The prevailing theory is one of two. One, if Jay White was going to sign with AEW, why not stay in New Japan? So this is clearly a sign that Jay White is going to WWE. Solid logic, but also Jay White has kind of mentioned that he wants to stop doing the traveling. So why would you keep doing stuff with New Japan if your intention is to stay stateside? I know some people would say, well, what about New Japan Strong? Well, they're changing over how they do their show. And I'm sure that the pay in AEW would be better than the pay in New Japan Strong. So why would you risk offending people by not wanting to do New Japan Strong when you just want to do AEW? It's like there are two trains of thoughts. I think he's going to WWE, but I hope not, because it won't be best for him. But also, I look at it like this. Marcus, you and I are both basketball fans. In the world of the NBA, there's something called the max contract.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do certain things to obtain it, but once you are qualified for it, you generally, always speaking, want to go for it. But here's the problem. Not every player who's able to get the max contract should get the max contract. And I think about somebody like Tobias Harris. He has a max contract. He is not a top-tier talent. He's getting paid around, maybe not as much as, but in the same ballpark as a LeBron James and a Luka Doncic, which is mind-boggling because they're infinitely better than Tobias Harris. But what ends up happening is they put all this money and time into a guy, and they're forced to use him, and in turn they're stuck in a situation where they're not as good as they could have been because they overpaid for a guy that was okay at the time he was at his peak, but now his contract has become a detriment. That's not the same scenario that pro wrestlers find themselves in, but it's a similar ideology and theory that it may track. What ends up happening is a guy who is not high enough, at least in terms of moving the needle, gets signed, put into a scenario where you think he's going to do better than he doesn't, and flops. Shinsuke Nakamura being the prime example of this recently. He was a guy who was very popular in Japan and did not do anything in the United States. I have a feeling what's going to end up happening is Jay White's going to come in, if he does something with the WWE, with just all the hype. But like with other guys who did not pan out, is going to fail. His image is going to take a hit. His name value is going to drop. He'll eventually get released if he does get released at all, and he'll be a shell of what he used to be because he's taking a contract with expectation that he could be a top guy. But he was never, at least in my opinion, a top guy in New Japan because he was somebody who replaced Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was a needle mover. Kenny Omega was a ground shaker, an earth mover. He was somebody who did the do. That was an old Mountain Dew reference if you couldn't catch it. Do the do. Not as great as the 7-Up one, Marcus. Do you remember when Godfrey was their spokesperson and he had the 7-Up phrase, make 7 up yours?
Oh, yeah.
The best slogan in the history of slogans. So when it comes to Jay White, like they tried to make him a main eventer, but he never felt like a main eventer to me. He always felt like a guy who they put the belt on and it just, it hurt the value of the belt. Because he wasn't somebody that I ever saw as somebody who would hold the belt for a long time. And he never really did. So I feel like the hype around Jay White going to WWE is higher than the actual efficacy of Jay White in the WWE. Like I feel like his hype will never match what he can actually do in the company. And I feel like his ceiling isn't that high, and he would be better off in a company like Impact or MLW or even AEW as a mid-carder as opposed to going to like NXT to try to be a headliner or Raw or SmackDown and try to insert himself into the top of the food chain. Granted, the WWE is lacking headliners, though. And I feel like if Jay White is the solution to that, then I don't know what to make of that. Also, apparently, the WWE is more focused on trying to sign Kenny Omega, which I think is an interesting scenario to come out of this. So, Marcus, do you think Jay White could be a headliner in WWE?
Yeah, but because I'm more high on Jay White than you because I just enjoyed his time in New Japan in terms of him being probably one of the most prolific antagonists to come through that company. Like he was an adjutant, like in every sense of the word. Obviously, nobody compares to Murder Grandpa and Minoru, but that's a whole different tier. It just perplexed me exactly if they would bring Jay White in like they did Styles and kind of just let him do his thing, but in WWE, or would they try to tweak it somehow? Because I don't know. Like I feel like this is who Jay White is who he's gonna kind of be to try and tweak that and turn it into something else at this point in the game. I don't know if it'll work, but we're also in an era where that wouldn't necessarily happen, perhaps under the umbrella of Triple H. So I can understand going to WWE and those being uncharted waters, and it's always interesting to me when stuff like this comes up, and for some reason Impact's never in the conversation. Um, again, it's the redheaded stepchild, no matter how much ground they gain. So AEW, I could easily see. I mean, the thing about it is we already seen him pop up in AEW. Already seen him pop up in Impact. WWE is the one place, obviously, you don't just pop up in. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. But it did, like you said, it was that report that came out saying that I'm guessing they're going after a bigger fish. And I'm guessing
the rumor is that it's Kenny Omega. Now, I don't know how many other bigger fishes there are. Maybe Okada. Like that could be a bigger fish than Jay White, but like Jay White to me, and I hate to do the Triple H ism, but he's a B plus, or maybe a B. That's a pretty decent ceiling. Like I'm not trying to take away from the guy. He can have a decent match. He's not. To me, he's popularity level 2000 era Kane, talent level 97 Rock, which is not a compliment. So like he has value if you can find the right role for him. But to me, there aren't a lot of other, high value, big name possible free agents above him that make sense. I don't see Jericho ever going back to the WWE. Maybe to get inducted in the Hall of Fame, but I think that'd be about it. Moxley's never going to go back. Why would he?
Punk's never going back.
Especially if the rumors of him making good with the folks at AEW ends up being true. Because like the tone around Punk has changed in the last few months, last few weeks, I should say.
including Hangman.
Well, I think here's the brutal reality. If Hangman Page says, I'm going to quit if you bring back CM Punk, I'm handing him his pink slip, showing him where the door is, and telling him, and take your shitty merchandise with you. That is not a loss. You get a guy who can't move the needle in a feud with Chris Jericho, or a guy who can make a 1 hour show that no one else wants to watch actually relevant. I'm going with the guy who makes irrelevant things relevant. So, like, I don't care if Hangman Page is happy CM Punk might come back. I don't care if the Young Bucks are happy CM Punk might come back. CM Punk's the biggest name in that promotion. He's the biggest name in wrestling. I know that may offend some people. It's the truth. Because here's the thing. Roman Reigns, he hasn't moved the needle. He hasn't lost the needle, so that's a good thing. But there are three types of headliners. Guys that lose the needle. Guys that maintain. And guys that increase your profit. Punk increases. We know this historically. Reign is maintained. That's good. That's bare minimum what you're hoping for. You know, if you can get a guy who doesn't drop fans, great. And then you have your Jinder Mahals and your Randy Ortons and your Triple H's. So yeah, I'm good with losing Adam Page if it means CM Punk comes back.
I mean, the Kenny Omega thing will be insane because narratively, for all the stuff that we've heard from Khan about being a competition and how he feels about the company, to lose a second EVP,
to lose arguably the bigger of the two EVPs.
Yeah,
because while Cody does have name value, can't dispute that. We all showed up for All In because of Cody. Let's be honest. Like, Nick Aldis had his best match ever with Cody. And then the whole, I don't need a tag team partner. I don't need a friend. I need a brother. I was bawling. I was weeping. It's like, we know Cody can deliver. It's just that Cody, there's nothing for Cody to prove anymore. He solved racism. On this, the 20th day of Black History Month, we need to give thanks and praise to the savior of the black people, Cody Rhodes. American dream.
Cody.
He's just a common man.
Cody Luther. Cody Luther.
So, yeah. We'll see what happens to the CM Punk thing. As far as the New Japan Battle in the Valley goes, Jay White lost. It was fine. Tom Lawler versus Homicide in a no ropes match was, I think, the best match on the card. Homicide stabbed Tom Lawler in the foot. I don't know if the knife or whatever it was dulled, but like he was going for it. That was like, if you watch one match, watch that match because it was dumb and awesome and violent. Zachary Sabre Jr. defeated Clark Connors by submission in a TV match. That was pretty solid. Connors was looking like he was going to win, and then if I remember correctly, Sabre kind of caught him in the submission. So definitely check that one out. Mercedes Moné versus Kyrie. It went for a while. They did like a table spot by the stage, which was fine. Like, it felt too much. It felt like Mercedes Moné, who wrestled in WWE as Sasha Banks, was really trying to prove that like I can have a great match with anyone. And it's like, you're working with Kyrie. You didn't need to go that hard. Like, it's not like you're working like with Carmella or what's Zack Ryder's wife's name? Carmella 2.
Oh, Chelsea Green. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Carmella Green. Chelsea Carmella 2. Because then you could understand having to go all out because they are shit workers. But like, you're working with Kyrie, like, and not that Kyrie in the NBA. Yeah, you don't need to worry about flat earthers here. Like, she will work with you. It's fine. And I felt like they went a little too hard for a match that didn't need to be that over the top. But it was fine. If like she had a better, I don't know if she does wigs or if she dyes her hair. But if she does wigs, she had a much better wig this time around. But I hate her theme song. It's on the levels of Brie mode. You ever like see those videos they're like 30 hours long and it's just like 3 or 5 seconds of the same audio clip looped?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if anything could top the "Knowing Supremo" because I almost feel like the intentionality of that song is to create harm. But like, it's funny because is it just me or does that song reference Sasha's new theme reference the Crisscross song?
I think it might be because like the jump around song is what you're referring to,
Yeah.
and there is some of that in the music. I don't know if that was sampled, but the biggest issue is like it's like dun 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 money, and I'm just like dun 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 hang me.
Money.
Like it's so bad. Like Breeze is like I got a toddler drunk and I had her record my audio and then slapped a keyboard and that's Brie mode. Like it seemed like somebody's like, let's just do the most obnoxious thing we could possibly do. All right, fine. You have to, and like it's not even like this song is bad. We can all agree Brie mode's not a bad song. Brie mode's bad because of the opening. Brie mode. Like, all right, cool. Now I want to, slam, crocheting needles into my ears. Thanks. Appreciate that. Good job. The rest of it's just whatever. I don't even remember the rest of it. But like the repetitiveness of Sasha, like it starts, continues, and go. It's like Rob Van Dam's, but without the percussion.
So like, dun, 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 repeat. Dun, dun,
Basically.
dun,
And like
repeat.
you keep
Dun,
waiting for the
dun.
lyrics to start, and you only ever get money. And it's said so obnoxiously that I have to actually like ask myself, is she living a gimmick anymore?
This is the first time you get chat. Can we get Snoop back? Play,
Get
play.
Snoop. This is how you know it's bad. I would rather have a trio sing along song of Flow Rider and
Yeah, what I
Georgia
do.
Florida Rhyme. Get me these two worst acts in Florida history. Flow Rider and Florida Georgia Line do a trio and make a better song. And it could just be them like slapping a bucket going moo.
Saying like, oh, screw it. Oh, they booked up for shows. Okay, who was the fool who did the Royal Rumble thing? My last name.
Oh God, no, no. Okay, we found a new low.
He says nobody like that.
Uh, so yeah, Marcus, are you gonna go out of your way to see this match?
Yeah, check it out. It always brings something to look forward to because she is Sasha always plays with the aesthetic, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she did. Now it's been a while since I've seen Kyrie in action. Not since she was in NXT.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll check that part out.
And of course, the main event was Okada versus Tanahashi. This one didn't hit as hard as their past ones, but Tanahashi's like 46 or 47. So like, it was good, but there are better.
Yeah, it's like what you were saying with the drawing thing. You're either about to draw big, you maintain a drawing level, or so with them, it's like how many matches have they had now between them? Like 20, maybe, or maybe modest, maybe with
Maybe
that.
more.
Yeah, yeah, with all the G1s. Um, so I mean, at best they're coasting, but coasting for the two of them is um, like top tier compared to some of the other stuff we see. So yeah,
You could do far worse than coasting with Okada as champion. That's for sure.
yeah.
Now, when we talk about drawing and champions, you're moving the needle, you're staying the needle, or you're losing the needle. You do this by who you're paired with. It's always about who the dance partner is.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can get a flash in the pan like Roman and Sammy. Sometimes you can really hit the peak like Cena and Rock. Other times you do Jinder versus Styles. Yeesh. But the pairing here that works isn't Okada and Tanahashi, even though they had it headline the show, which it makes sense. You had like 4,000 or 5,000 fans in attendance. You want to give them a peak main event that they've never seen before in person. You do Tanahashi Okada. If it was a live show, perfect. It's not. It's a pay per view. But the real headline grabber was that Tanahashi Okada challenged Tanahashi to be his dream tag team partner and to go after the IWGP tag team titles. That will move the needle a bit. That's trending a little over to the more money side of the odometer. So that's going to be cool. If they win, that'll be huge, and it'll be a headline making occurrence. So like that's the hope, is that Tanahashi and Okada win the tag team titles. But we'll see if it ends up happening. With that said, Marcus, let's talk about the headline. Ariel Helwani is taking on Tony Khan at WrestleMania in a street fight. Although, no, not really. Although I wish it was. That'd be hilarious.
in a loser leaves town, winner becomes a legitimate journalist match.
So, if you didn't know by now, Helwani showed up on SmackDown, and Tony Khan had a conniption. He called Helwani a fraud. So, all right, thank you, WrestleZone, for being good journalists and putting in all the relevant information in the update, because it helps me from having to look things up. Helwani appeared on SmackDown this past Friday, and I just realized that my battery is not charging. Why is it not charging? Where are you? Why are you not doing your job? There we go.
Yeah, Khan saw him on SmackDown and went tinkle purr.
Basically. Sorry. Now that my computer is plugged in properly. He said, quote, "You're a fraud, Ariel Helwani. You're as legitimate of a reporter as Tony Schiavone." Jesus Christ. You
I was like,
hey,
hard. Take that random shot at Schiavone, man.
Right? Helwani goes, "Thanks for watching, old friend. Can't wait for our next chat. Also, don't listen to Snowman, Schiavone. You're a legend in my books." Now, this stems from a October interview last year where Helwani asked Tony Khan a bunch of questions about the all-out brawl, and Khan basically said, "I can't talk about it because due to legal and I'm sure contractual issues." And Helwani kind of got a little pathetic in the interview because he called it the worst interview he's ever done. He lambasted Khan for not putting his best foot forward, and I listened to the interview, and it's basic boilerplate what you would expect from somebody who's listening to your HR and lawyers of a company. Like, he's not giving you anything to work with, and I understand that upset Helwani, but also you can't make him give you the answers you want. You can only ask the questions you deem appropriate, and this is why I always hate doing these interviews, because I've always gone into them in the idea that if I ask you a question, you don't need to answer it the way I want, but I still need to ask the question, and I will accept whatever answer I get back. Helwani is not that guy. Helwani is always somebody who needs that memeable, profitable, headline-grabbing clip. So when he doesn't get it, he gets a little cantankerous, and it's who he is, and he can deny it, but we have it on tape. The problem is, I do like Ariel Helwani, and I like him because he talks about fighters' rights, he talks about fighter pay, he talks about the MMA industry as a whole, and he's challenged Dana White a few times, and this is kind of where things go a little bit sideways. His credibility comes because he takes a moralistic stance. Dana White doesn't pay his fighters nearly enough. That's not even debatable. He doesn't offer them health care, even though he has them under exclusive contracts. He does the same things to his fighters that the WWE does to their pro wrestlers. They're independent contractors and everything in only name only. So, Helwani's gone after Dana, talked about how Dana's not exactly the best person in the world, talked about how, Dana slapped his wife and how that makes him a pretty scummy person. And, he's gotten into a feud with him. But Helwani's always maintained, like, I'm a journalist. I speak the truth, the facts. But then he's showing up in the WWE, who is doing to their talent the same thing the UFC is doing. But Helwani doesn't have a problem with that. So I understand that there's a lot of, like, tribalism in wrestling. I don't like tribalism. I don't like the idea of, like, us versus them or we versus me. I'm not down for that. So I'm somebody who goes with the idea that if this is what you stand for it always. Don't pick and choose when it's an appropriate time for you to stand up. Helwani picks and chooses when it's time to stand up. He spent a bunch of years with ESPN. And during that time, he was radio silence on his criticisms on the UFC and Dana White because of contractual obligations and money and all that. So we already know that Ariel Helwani is someone you can buy and pay for. So for him to go on WWE after like all these years or all these months of going after Dana White and the UFC structure and all that, and to see him just like chumming it up with all these people as the wrestlers are being, underpaid and unfairly classified. Now, granted, it's not the same environment was, a few years back, but it's still not great. And I know we like to ignore that, but it's still not great. He's not talking about Vince McMahon. He's not talking about Vince McMahon's lawsuits or, the rape allegations or anything like that. So I feel like it's one of those things where Helwani does come off very bad. He spent months after leaving ESPN criticizing Dana White for all these things that Vince McMahon has also been accused of. And he's got no problem taking a payday from the WWE. And his defense is, well, I'm not a pro wrestling reporter or I'm not a pro wrestling journalist. And to me, Marcus, that just sounds like a cop-out. Because, I don't, if I sit here and go, I'm not a big fan of Nazis, not a big fan of the KKK. I'm also not going to turn around and hang out with Bloods, Crips, and the Latin Kings either, because I don't hang with racists. It's kind of my thing. I have many other things. It's not the only thing I'm known for. But with Helwani, he definitely does pick and choose.
Yeah, it's not the devil he knows, the devil he likes.
Essentially.
Yeah, because and I don't know if Tony said this, but this kind of, because you say you kind of got, I guess, in that post scrum interview or whatever with everything that was going on, because that whole thing, regardless of how people feel like he should have answered or whatever, that whole thing was a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Just that whole situation with Punk alone, his mind was being blown as in real time. We were seeing his mind being blown in real time as Punk was just sitting there just venting. So it was only so much he was gonna be able to do at that time anyway. Because obviously stuff got handled and divvied out in terms of punishments or whatever after the fact. But just the fact that he even, because a lot of that stuff didn't that break out immediately after that scrum or during the scrum stuff was happening.
So he did his interview. CM Punk did his part of the interview. I want to say right after the main event, because then he left, and then I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Swerve, because for some reason I remember it being a black wrestler, and I think it was Swerve and Tony Khan, or maybe it was Keith Lee and Tony Khan, because I just remember someone turning to their side and you see a bunch of people running off screen, and that's when the fight happened.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
So it was sometime after Punk, and I think Punk went earlier in the scrum.
Yeah, because I also feel like with Khan too, and obviously a lot of rightful criticism goes to him too, specifically with him kind of doing stuff he maybe shouldn't be doing in his position through social media.
Oh yeah, this doesn't make Khan look good at all.
Yeah, it never does. Particularly when it comes on Twitter, we always talk about dude, this is put the phone down. Just write it down in a diary or something as a boss and keep it to yourself. I feel like for him too, it's like a respect thing, because in his mind, I'm like, you wouldn't have pulled that on Triple H, or you wouldn't have pulled that on somebody over there, because you kind of, again, it's the devil you like. You kind of, you kiss up to the power teat over there, or suck up to the power teat over there, where you don't have the same level of respect for me. So the minute I piss you off, you kind of check me like I'm some, rookie that's, trying to, be smart about the business, and I come off smart about the business than I actually am, and you get to kind of sun me a little bit. That's not how that goes for him. And I think Khan, it's a lot of his piss David, if you will, has kind of come down to how he views he's respected, as opposed to, in juxtaposition to his peers or whatever. So I get it, but it was funny with just how many people actually came out like, no, he's absolutely biased and a bum with the Ariel Wani side. But it was also funny that he basically called the snowman comment was a reference to Booger Sugar. So, that's also funny.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I want to like Ariel. I really do. But he's somebody who, once you start opening up those doors, and this is my criticism for LeBron James. Like once you start opening up the doors of like racism and inequality and whatnot, it can't just be one thing. You have to go, through all the things. Like you have to embrace the concept that, like with LeBron, a lot of it came from what was it? The 2016 was that like when everything popped off, or was it 2018
You talking about for the like that?
with Black Lives Matter and whatnot?
Yeah, that happened in what, the summer 2020?
Well, yeah, it came back around in 2020, but it started in like 2016, I think, or like 2018, and it came
Yeah,
back around in 2020. But then in 2021, a lot of black people were beating up Asian people, and like LeBron said nothing. And like another criticism was like he talked about how he wants to be a force of good in the world, but he makes hundreds of millions of dollars off of slave labor in China, and he never speaks on that. And then he got mad at Daryl Morey for supporting what was it, Taiwan, in their quest for independence from China. I could be wrong on Taiwan. I get confused on Asian countries' names. But like Daryl Morey tweeted out support for I think Taiwan, and LeBron started yelling at Daryl Morey for possibly endangering the partnership with the NBA and China because the NBA makes most of their money I think on China, or not, if not most, maybe like 45% of the revenue comes from China. So like the NBA is like don't make China mad, and so like there's a lot of like that upsets me because like I look at someone like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and that dude is consistent, and that's why I love reading his work. He's fantastic. But with like LeBron, like he picks and chooses when he wants to get mad at things, and I feel like that's very much the case with Ariel Helwani. He likes to pick and choose when he's going to get indignant. If you're mad that people are being underpaid, don't ever just be mad when it suits your ability to hype your name up. Like I hate that people get underpaid in McDonald's, in construction work, as doctors, teachers, wrestling. I don't care. I get underpaid. So like yeah, it affects me too. But it's one of those things where it's like I'm consistent. If you can afford to pay more, pay more. Like these people deserve, they deserve the money they make. And when I look at Helwani, it's like he's never consistent. It's always when he can make a name off himself. And he's a very good reporter. He's a very good interviewer. So it really pains me to say that, he is biased, and he does have biases. He likes to take himself out of conversation that he could have a very big voice in. I don't understand how you can have that much influence, that much sway, and decide, I know I could bring some light to some of the issues in the WWE, but instead I'm a not.
yeah. Let's get one of them things, man, where it's like you finally kind of get around in that bubble in that circle, and you kind of just feel so good to be around so many things that's liked or so many things that you like.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of almost just take this back seat of non-committing to certain things. And it may be unintentional, but because of, like you said, because of certain exchanges that have been had and certain stances that have been taken in the past, it does come off as intentional. With the LeBron thing, it kind of reminds me of when being a Silver Surfer and going around the galaxy shitting on Galactus.
What a deep cut reference to the 1990s Fantastic Four. Oh no, Silver Surfer actually did his own cartoon,
Yeah,
didn't he?
yeah, I love that
That's
show.
right.
It's the only time I've ever wanted to actually have a surfboard. Um, but it's easily one of my favorites. But love that show. But yeah, it's one of them things, man, where it's kind of like you said, he's basically he's the if the um NBA is the car, he's the Mercedes emblem on the car, and
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be a unique position to be in. Um, to want to speak out, and I think maybe that's the issue of it. Like it comes off picky because he kind of has to be picky, like being the guy while also trying to be, somebody that stands up and speaks out in his position because he's gonna get criticized from all sides. You're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
criticized from the old heads. That's like you should be lucky to be in your position, and then you're gonna get criticized from your community because like how can you be in that position, being able to be on that taller mountain, clearly seeing everything that's happening and not saying anything. Which it like I said, it's this weird dichotomy. So many things existing at the same time. Like you said, speaking on the China thing, when you're talking about the Olympics, you're talking about cash flow from certain revenue streams and whatnot. a lot of stuff comes into play
Mm-hmm.
that you just can't like. It's being between a rock and a hard place. But like you said, specifically with this Ariel Ronnie thing, it's just funny how this trickled out because when stuff gets put on Twitter, it almost kind of reminds me of what happened with Tessa when one person said one thing as a reply, and everybody like, "Oh yeah, you remember that time you were racist to me?" Like, fuck. Oh man, oh man, like, go gadget shitstorm. Here we go.
And you're right, and in James's defense, like it's not a position that anyone should ever have to be in. Like that is too much pressure for one human being, and like it's just one of those things. Like specifically, like if you're gonna take a stand, be
Yeah,
universal about it, And like I don't want to tear down LeBron because he's done some work for Akron, and Akron needs all the work they can get. So like he's gonna put a bunch of kids through college, and that's awesome. Like that is a great thing he's doing. I'm not gonna sit here and turn my nose down at that. I'm just saying like it's it's an applicable parallel between the idea of having a belief and not always following it. And I feel like Ariel is a very specific one-to-one comparison to LeBron in that regard. I don't think either man is truly a bad person. And
yeah,
I think you bring up the idea of like Ariel gets swept up in being so loved on by a community he doesn't have a lot of interactions with that
yeah.
maybe he did get some rose tinted glasses. I think that's a very good point of observation. Maybe it's even true. I don't know. Like I don't know Ariel well enough to speak on that. But you're not. I don't think you're wrong. I think there's some truth to that. But on a more lighter note, Randy Savage released a record. Well, he actually released a CD back. I think it was like back in 2004, and it became 2003, and it was quote unquote well known for "Be a Man." I think the song was just called "Be a Man," but it was basically him mocking Hulk Hogan. So I'm sure you're gonna run out and buy that because obviously Macho Man digging on Hulk Hogan in a rap album. How can you not? It was a 14-track album, and it was released on a LP format purple vinyl, limited to 1,000 copies recently. I'm not here to hawk the vinyl. If you're into records, go for it. But Marcus, I just want to hear your thoughts on what you think about Randy Savage cutting a rap album.
I mean, I just think it's hilarious because in my mind, everything is in the tone and voice of the guy. It almost kind of reminds me of doggone what's the doggone channel where they used to do raps with the like historical figures.
Oh, the epic rap battles of history.
Yeah,
They still do
yeah,
that.
like he was ahead of his time with it. Um, so like you said, I mean he did it like it's powerful like actual Randy Savage.
He did it as well. I don't know if there's a difference. Is there? He did it in the voice, if that's what you're asking.
Oh, okay,
Like,
okay,
like I remember distinctly. He's like, "Ooh, be a man, Hulk."
oh, perfect. That's perfect, and that's the way to do it because who wouldn't listen to that if nothing else for the sheer comedy of it?
It's pretty comical.
They go, oh yeah, crisscross to make yeah.
Crisscross applesauce. I'm gonna drop the elbow on you. You Dumbo. Oh, look at me. I could be a rapper. Just give me give me a beat.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's brilliant. I'm surprised more. To be fair, that wouldn't necessarily work for everybody. It made sense with Cena. It's hilarious with Savage. A few other people could do it, or some people could do ad libs like the Snitsky thing. That'll be great um, for ad libs and whatnot. So uh, it's interesting. More people have it than obviously all truth, who is rooted in rap, got his stuff, but like more obscure characters, kind of like Randy Savage on the rap albums. I think it's really brilliant marketing, really, because if people are if you're one of the most imitated people anyway, it just makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. And now I'm thinking of Ron Killings doing an actual rap album with John Cena where they sample iconic one-liners, like "It wasn't my fault," and then like you drop into a beat. Oh, that would be so good. If someone's listening who can do that, go for it. Like I'm not gonna be mad.
Oh man.
So yeah, are you gonna go listen to the album? Because like there's like a behind the scenes video too. I remember like he's at like this house in Florida talking about the album in his macho voice.
That's weird. You also think something like that may have appeared on because I know they've had to do several docus or miniseries on Macho Man over the years. You would think something like that would have came up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it was just so obscure and so off to the side that people like kind of had to go looking for it to discover it. But that's yeah, I'm probably gonna go check that out. Yeah.
I would like your honest review on it later. So with that said, let's move on to Nick Aldis. He's uh he's a free agent doing his thing at the moment.
Mm.
One of the things that we're waiting to see where he signs. I know like he's one of those guys like Jay White to me. He doesn't have a high ceiling, but he's got a very high floor. Like you will never have like to worry about some instances with him. Like he will always have like good matches, not great matches, not 5-star matches, but they'll never be bad. And his promos will always be entertaining enough that you don't want to turn the channels. Like he's a glue guy. I really think he's a glue guy. In the right situation with the right feud with the right promoter with the right ideas, he could even be a headliner. So like he's someone that I think a lot of promotions like MLW, Impact, GCW, even though I don't like GCW, even NXT, AEW, like they could all use him to some degree. So we're all waiting to see where he goes. But he was asked about why he hadn't signed yet. Speaking to Dominic D'Angelo for ad-free shows, he discussed the next chapter of his life, saying, "I just wanted to be free and clear of any commitments for a minute, and then see what happens and sort of discuss." I've had a couple of discussions, a couple of different phone calls with a couple of different people and places, and sort of what if we did this or maybe that. I think for now that's sort of what I want it to be. I just had an appearance in Chicago, right outside of Chicago near Peoria. Actually, I had the show in Illinois. I go to Calgary this week for Dungeon Wrestling for the Hart family. Then I go to Australia. I've got a show and seminar in Australia, but then obviously doing some media and other business for the big event that we're doing at the end of the year. Then I think I've already got 4 or 5 shows on the UK dates. So it sounds like he's going back to his pre-NWA days because he was doing a lot of this. And he goes on to say, I like approaching the business a bit like the guys used to, like Matt Cardona is doing that. He's working a little program in this territory, then he goes over and works this little thing over there, does something else over here. That's intriguing to me. Ultimately, I'm just very confident that I can deliver. So it's waiting for the right opportunity, not necessarily for the first one. Marcus, do you like the idea of guys like Cardona and Aldis kind of working multiple promotions at the same time?
I dig, for all the flack that we give Cardona, he's earned.
The flack, I agree.
Yeah, that and the momentum that he's garnered for himself. Coming off of staying in WWE, he's really had to kind of dig himself out of a certain trench from a perception and really rework that whole thing and turn it on his head and kind of earn himself a spot. As you know, going back to almost to talking about Jay White, how much of an adjutant he's become on the independent scene. And kind of, gotten himself his own legitimacy outside of that by being, a little bit of a free agent, if you will. In terms of all this, he was in a relationship for a while and he's enjoying dating again. He's back on the scene enjoying dating. I get it. If he had to land somewhere, I'm of the mind that he has, in a way, some unfinished business with Impact because as a world champion, it was not the run he wanted. It was the run he performed because that was his job, and he's very much a guy that says if he's gonna, if he has a job to do, he's gonna do it. Um, Even if he doesn't like it, and that's always made him somebody that's dependable. But that I don't think that reign was good for him or the audience.
No.
I don't even think he debate that. So in that regard. I think he has some unfinished business, and they would also go well with everything that we've been getting with Impact, with bringing in guys that we wouldn't thought we'd ever seen again in that. Like this, some of those guys that came through via the very loose relationship they had with AEW. And then now we got Kazarian back full time, and we've seen Daniels come back, and all the names that you've referenced that I have no idea who they are, but they've come back. Um, it's been brilliant to see. So, and then obviously his wife is there and now the champion, so that's a thing too. Uh, but I get it, man. He wants to play fast and loose, and he's a businessman first and foremost, as he always states. So I get the business side of it, and I get the longing for freedom of it. Particularly coming off of what he came off of, which started one way, maintained at a certain point, and then plummeted into the ground near the end. So.
So I'm glad that you clarified, because when you said something about him dating and being back in the market, I was wondering if you were alluding to something that I wasn't aware of.
Oh no, no, he's still
So
very much hardcore country.
he's hardcore something. Hardcore country. All right, let's move on. We got the biggest signing the biggest appearance in the history of Impact Wrestling, Barry Horowitz. So this may not land with everyone, but Barry Horowitz was I don't want to say an iconic jobber from back in the WWF days, but he was. He was defined really by his Hebrew heritage. He came out and he had the Star of David on his trunks, and he would do this thing where he would pat himself on the back, which is exactly what he did on Impact. He showed up face off with Johnny Swinger in a really clunky but very silly match, and it was one of those moments that really made me happy, especially because the Demon Dale Torborg came out afterwards and distracted Johnny Swinger so Barry Horowitz can get a win, which is something Horowitz never did. Like he got like 2 wins, I think, in the history of the WWF. So like seeing that and then seeing the Demon and just seeing this angle of Swinger, like I love it. I love the historical significance, because like he comes out on the little trolley, the little carts with the ring ropes, like it was WrestleMania 3. So I thought that was hilarious. And like I just love everything that's going on with it. But the best part was afterwards he goes to Scott D'Amore, and Barry Horowitz like 62. And he goes, D'Amore, I want the same deal you gave Johnny Swinger. If I win 50 matches, I get a shot at the title. And I'm not D'Amore, I'm sorry. It was Santino Marella. And he goes, Santino, I want the same deal you gave Johnny Swinger, 50 wins, and I get a shot at the title. And he goes, all right, you got it. Next week, you'll get the Reno. And Barry Horowitz like, you know what? I'm going to go out on top. Good job. See you later. And he just leaves. I thought it was like a dumb little segment, and it was silly, but it's one of those things that I think makes wrestling fun. So I'm glad we got to see it. Marcus, did you get to see it? Did you have any idea who Barry Horowitz actually is?
No, I haven't seen it yet. By the way, if Santino signed just so you could do it impression of him every week, it was worth it. Um, no, but I mean it's interesting because they, like you said, they brought in another guy. That was a real throwback. Um, so that's interesting. Also, the flipping it with the getting the same thing as who he gave it to, Swinger. With the if you get a certain amount of wins, you get a title shot or something.
Yes.
Yeah, so that instantly improves things for Swinger and then that whole group. So particularly when they're running into guys like Kenny King, who's going to cause all kind of hell. So not familiar with the guy, but I am intrigued to seeing what they do, because I don't want to poo-poo this whole thing with like, why are they bringing back these bunch of nostalgic irrelevance when they're finding actual interesting ways to fit them into the show. And you can't have all. It's not a roster full of Josh Alexander, so it's not. That's not the expectation.
Yeah, you got to find your entertainment in ways that you can. And like I'm fine with them using these nostalgia acts every so
Yeah.
often. Because like even like with the stuff with like Rhino and Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray, like I'm fine with all that. If it can get eyes on the product, then why would I have a problem with that, you know?
Yeah.
So like I'm all on board with that. So hopefully we get some more stuff, because like I love seeing the random ass guys that they're able to pull in, like Ernest the Cat Miller. I didn't know I wanted to see Ernest the Cat Miller again until he popped up. So like, I'm hoping we get Glacier. I don't know. That'd be cool.
I could think of a certain pouncing act that would be great to see again.
Hell yeah! Like have like Monty Brown show up with like Shark Boy just for one night. Like that. Yeah. I wouldn't mind that whatsoever.
Okay.
So Jeff Jarrett recently did a Hey EW interview with RJ City, where he spoke about his true feelings on Dixie Carter. Now I'm gonna read this to you and then I'll clarify because you may not know who Dixie Carter is. So he asks the question. Jarrett says, "Give me a second, don't interrupt." When asked about how he feels about Dixie Carter, so he goes on to say, "Quote: Charming, talented, and elegant. But at the end of the day, I've got to be truthful. I got to be factual. It's kind of what this complete and utter nonsense is all about. I believe family law is her best work, not designing women." Now, Marcus, you may not be aware of what Jeff Jarrett is talking about because we're thinking Impact Dixie Carter, TNA Dixie Carter. There's actually an actress by the name of Dixie Carter who was in the iconic 1980s fashion design show Designing Women. And Jeff Jarrett's referring to her in this interview and not his former boss. I just thought it was a dumb little moment in the history of wrestling that needed to be pointed out.
Did he clarify who he was talking about? This was
No.
before. Wow, that's
Now, if you didn't know who the actress Dixie Carter was, then you would have no idea what he's talking about. And that was the hilarity of it. So, you know.
it's even funnier because when you when you started listing off the pros that he was listing about the lady, it's almost word for word talking points that those old veterans would say, like Kevin Nash and others would say about Dixie Carter right before they said, but she doesn't know business.
Yeah. And that'd be fair.
Yeah.
Great woman, but not a great booker. Speaking of great things gone wrong, Thunder Rose's career in wrestling has been fantastic, but it's hit a bit of a hiccup in AEW. She's rubbed some ladies the wrong way, not like Deshaun Watson. I do the jokes to make my co-host laugh.
Um,
According to Fightful Select, Rosa was backstage this past week and made amends with some of the women for some of the perceived behavior. There had been reports that she sandbagged opponents like Marina Shafir, and she accidentally broke Jamie Hayter's nose. So basically, Thunder Rosa wanted to clear things up. The article says be productive and start with a clean slate. Apparently, it was well received, and we'll see if going forward there's some love for her. She's back with the team, so to speak. She's doing Spanish commentary for AEW shows for the interim while she continues to heal. So, Marcus, do you excited about Thunder Rosa coming back, especially if she's able to make amends with people?
yeah, I didn't know it had got that bad. But if things did go off the rails like that, and there was some stuff that got perceived that may have been very much unintentional, because she's a phenomenal worker. She's always come off, from what I've seen. Obviously, I don't know if I'm a can of paint, but in interviews and such, as a respectable person with morals and values and whatnot, and somebody that takes their work and their craft very seriously from all perspectives. So, maybe some prolonged ambition as trying to level up in the company and show improve and become champion and really become a workhorse in the company. Didn't necessarily allow her to shake hands and kiss the babies on the way up, as you move up to being a top dog. So I can understand how things could kind of go awry. And thankfully, she did, like you said, according to that report, make amends. And I am happy. And just to see her in general, I would have preferred, in I guess, an elsewhere story for her to kind of defect and then ultimately end up in Impact, because that would have been phenomenal for the women's roster. But she's happy being there. That's great. Obviously, having her on the Spanish commentary is great. Specifically while she heals, and I think when she heals, she is going to be great coming back. Particularly with somebody like Ember Moon on the roster, or Athena, I should say, on the roster now. So many others like Hater and other people elevating up the card. So, she's a phenomenal addition to any roster. So I'm looking forward to seeing her back. But at least she got to clear some stuff up because being labeled difficult to work with is not a good look, particularly for a woman, in the industry. So.
Yeah, as somebody who's been labeled difficult to work with in the past, I can concur. All right. Last two stories. Frankie Kazarian's facing off with Khan Crone. What's his name? Khan. Violent by Design for No Surrender. And listen, I'm a big fan of the Frank. Him coming back to Impact, big deal to me.
Yeah.
Not exactly happy with his first big match back with the contract. So like I'm a little kerfluffled. And I don't want to sit here and degrade Khan. He was in the Ascension. He was Connor, and apparently he can't even keep that name now. Yeah, so he's just Khan. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, is this what Frankie Kazarian signed up for? Like, granted, if they're building up to Kazarian versus Callahan, which is by all intents and purposes possible, because Callahan's with Violent by Design or just the design now. Like, all right, cool. Or even if they're just doing building up for a tag team where Kazarian tagged with Callahan, that's more significant. But like, I'm not down with Kaz versus Khan. Marcus, are you down with the Kaz Khan connection? I'll take it by your music.
No,
You're not.
no, I saw that was a phone. No, I mean, look, I'm surprised like him coming back as one of the prevailing OGs, particularly in the X Division. Somebody like he didn't fall on somebody like King's roster. I mean King's radar for him to go after. But obviously he was occupied proving to the world that Mike Bailey was a fraud. I'm like, okay, that's what that match proved. Um, but yeah, and like you said, nothing against Khan, but like look at what Cass did before he signed, and now this is what you got him doing. Now that he that actually has done it, like you said, if it's long logic where it's like, okay, he's gonna go through design to get to Callahan, who's still very much embroiled in the storyline of being brainwashed versus still having some of that old Callahan poke out, and then that kind of comes out in the battle with Kazarian or whatever. That works. But if it's just kind of throwing randoms at him to kind of occupy him while he's out of like several title scenes, I'm not down with that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So hopefully this leads to something more significant. Otherwise, like I'm not sure what exactly we're going to be doing here because Kaz doesn't have a lot of years left on him as a top competitor. So like I don't want to see him going through guys like Khan and Allen Angels and what have you. Like that's not what I'm here for. Finally, apparently Omos challenged Brock Lesnar to a WrestleMania match, and Mark is like, I'm scared because this might actually happen.
The one time business does not pick up when Brock shows up will be in his almost thing. Like I get it, but just because like not all kaiju matches need to be seen. They just don't. They just don't. Like you can find something else for Brock to do. You can find something else for Almost to do. They don't need to be doing it together. You know, you
Is
you would you would think they would be still leading to something with Lashley when he came out tonight like, I got kicked in the dick, and anybody want to play around with me, you gonna get done up. I'm like, okay, bro.
is there a scenario, in your opinion, where Omos can have a match that you would actually want to see at WrestleMania?
Who would be? It's hard to say because again, he's one of those individuals where it's a lummox feel to him. It's not like we're talking like he's that big and he moves like he's not that big moving like Damian Priest or Dijakovic when he was having a bunch of like mini kaiju matches with Keith Lee in NXT. It's kind of lummoxy, so it's like damn, I don't know. You would almost have to get him in there with somebody like a Styles again, but even that would only go so far. It's like you're not getting a. Do we need to see that go 15 minutes?
Do we need to see that at all?
Exactly. So it's like I don't know. Like almost this would be he would work in the Vince era of we need a entertainment spot at Mania. So let's do like an arm wrestling contest between him and 2011's Hall of Fame Mark Henry.
You know, that wouldn't be the worst idea.
Yeah.
Well, it might be, but it wouldn't be as bad as Lesnar and Omos, that's for sure.
Or somebody else. If that then again they under Vince they do that match just to do the freak spot of the watch Brock get him up for a F5. And that would be still sloppy as all hell trying to see him execute. He might pull it off. I don't know. I don't want to doubt Brock at all. He is the alpha male of our species, according to according to what's his face. But yeah, it's I feel like that's a disaster waiting to happen, and you can give somebody else that spot, or two more guys that spot that can put on a hell of a match.
Well, hopefully we don't have to sit through and see it, and hopefully this is just a build up to a reunion of the Hurt Business or Hurt Lock or whatever. What were they called? Hurt Business?
Yeah, the Hurt Business.
Because that'd be fine. But
Yeah.
I don't need to see Omos versus MV or Omos versus Brock. But I would like to see a Hurt Business influenced Bobby versus Brock. I think that could be a lot of fun. So that's it. Unless you have anything else you want to mention, Marcus.
Well, that's it for me.
All right, for Wrestling Underground, go to realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. Nope, we're not on Instagram anymore. Marcus, you can be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TRUEPENNY. That's two N's. SHOW on Twitter. That's True Penny Show on Twitter. You can find their show there. You can also find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHEDSPHOTOHUT. So for Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. Next week, we start our slog through NWA TNA. And unfortunately for Marcus, he will, in fact, be watching more wrestling. Marcus, take us home.
Good night.